Eric Anderson asks, I've been fascinated by St. Pauli supporters and the complexities of the Israel-Palestine situation and Jackson Irvine's changing status with at least some of the supporters. How do we approach this in the most diplomatic and best way? I think you had some thoughts on this, Matt.
I think it's great to have a nice, easy question. We can just solve this question in one sentence, probably, can't we?
We can try. I wish most conflicts could be this easily solved.
Yeah, cheers for the question. To be honest, it's something we could probably have an entire range of podcasts about. And I know that a lot of the fans in Hamburg, St. Pauli fans, they have dedicated several of their sort of internal sort of fan scene podcasts. One of the big ones is the Milan Ton podcast. It's a bit of a pun on the word Milan Ton for sound. They obviously debated this topic at length. And yeah, try and go through it as quickly, simply, and as objectively as I can. And what I would ask for, I suppose, understanding that is obviously a ridiculously complex topic and very difficult topic,
especially for Germans, right? Like this conflict is
exactly,
shades of grey for most countries, but like in Germany, you have to add extra shades to it.
Yeah, that's absolutely part of it. I think that's where we'll start, just to sort of set the scene a little bit. And I think in general, it's probably fair to say that the whole debate regarding the Middle East conflict at St. Pauli, it very much reflects the debate among the political left, to put it that way, inside Germany and outside Germany. I think there are probably political groupings which on the majority of issues in the world are probably very much on the same page, but when it comes to this particular issue, Israel, Palestine, the Middle East, they come from quite different backgrounds. I think very broadly speaking, we've not got that much time, have we? The more international left is very strong on support for the Palestinian people and the Palestinian cause, against what they would see as occupation and colonialism on the part of the state of Israel. I think a lot of that would be shared in Germany as well. People aren't completely blind. However, it is obviously coloured and tempered a little bit by the very peculiar and unique German left-wing approach to this, which is an historic sense of responsibility towards the state of Israel and its existence
and the Jewish people.
Yeah, and by extension, the Jewish people as a consequence of the crimes committed by Germany during the Second World War. So that's where those two things sort of come together, and that's probably the very broad background to why there are then disagreements at and around St. Pauli. If we then sort of go down a little bit closer from Germany down into FC St. Pauli as a football club, it's been an interesting debate. I think ever since the current conflict really erupted in the Middle East following the October the 7th attacks and the war since. I think a lot of international St. Pauli fan groups, from what I've followed, have very much taken issue with what they perceive as maybe the club St. Pauli and the fan scene St. Pauli not taking the same critical stance of Israel and stance of solidarity with the Palestinian people that perhaps they have. And I'm going to use Celtic as an example, but I think maybe some of the many international fan groups, Catalonia, several in the UK, would probably share those sentiments. And I think it's it's interesting. It's an interesting way to look at how they both come at it from slightly different angles. I think in the case of Celtic, from a very traditionally Irish and anti-colonial and anti-occupation standpoint, which would explain their very logical stance towards Palestine and Israel. Whereas on the other hand, you have maybe the supporters or St. Pauli supporters in Germany, coming at it from a slightly more, like I said, a stance which is a bit more tempered and influenced by Germany's historic relationship with Jews, and responsibility towards the state of Israel as they perceive it. And again, even though I've sort of divided that into two camps, I would always be so cautious and so careful about just dividing it so 50-50, black and white. I think the majority of people can understand the nuances and where people come from, I would hope.
I think also, to add to the Irvine debate, especially, St. Pauli fans can sniff from a mile away when politics aren't genuine and are done to grow a brand. And I think there is some suspicion by some members of the St. Pauli fan scene that Irvine isn't necessarily always genuine about his support, or him and his partner aren't always genuine about the support of the Palestine issue, right? And that is, I think, a separate thing too, that they feel that he's using the club for his own commercial success, which was a big part of the story as well, right?
That does seem to be a perception, particularly regarding Jackson Irvine.
Whether that's fair or not is I'm not judging either party here. I'm just think that is a big part of the debate as well.
It is undoubtedly a part of the debate, and again, it's actually not something I can judge. I wouldn't really know if if that's a legitimate way of looking at it or not, but it's definitely a perception that exists. And I think there was, again, just to go quickly into the Jackson Irvine debate, we're talking about your St. Pauli captain, really influential figure in their team that got promoted, Australian international, very, very socially active, politically active athlete. I think he's stood up for, all sorts of causes, LGBT rights, Aborigine rights in Australia. In Germany, he's spoken out against the AFD. I don't think he's a big fan of Donald Trump. So he's very politically engaged and socially engaged, and in many ways fits absolutely perfectly. It's a marriage made in heaven, you would think, for FC St. Pauli. But the current issue, which is what the listener was referring to, it was that during the summer break, he attended a festival wearing a T-shirt. And again, we just have to describe this as objectively as we can. He's wearing a T-shirt, which was from it was the brand FC Palestine. It's probably a football shirt that's I don't think actually worn, but yeah. And it had this image of the Middle East, where it had a state of Palestine, and it depicted this state without the state of Israel.
I think it was the full map of what we call Palestina, right? Not the state. Don't go after me politically here. Palestina, the region, which currently is fairly or unfairly split depending on which side of the debate you are between Israel and Palestine. I'm not taking sides here whatsoever, but it just showed the flag of Palestina and the geographic map of the entire thing. And I think, absolutely. I think that was one of the starting points of the debate, which then opened this can of worm where all these other issues were brought forward.
Yeah, because obviously a lot of some St. Pauli fans saw that as well.
But they, the fan groups are not a homogeneous scene. I think that is one thing that we have to understand. And then people were saying I just spent a weekend at Union Berlin and talking to people there, and people was like, this is an alternative club. I'm like, yeah, but which alternative is it? You know what I mean?
I think
people are saying, it's a left club. No, it's not. Union Berlin is a lot of things, but it's not one thing. And I think St. Pauli has a more defined political leaning, but it is not one thing. Fan groups don't work that way.
I think it's fair to say in the case of St. Pauli that St. Pauli are absolutely they are. I would say the majority of German clubs and fan groups, just about on balance, tend to be slightly more centre, more left of centre. But St. Pauli explicitly so. That is absolutely fair to say, and fair play. That's their identity, and that's what they do. That's what they stand for historically, and even and today as well. That's fine. But like I said, this being an explicitly German left wing organisation and institution, brings with it whether you like it or not, this idea of responsibility towards upholding the rights of the state of Israel to exist. And like I said, this perception exists in Germany. That's a fact. Whether you like or agree with that is, I suppose, up to anyone to decide. It's not for us to judge. What I would say, though, is I think this is something that the Sao Pauli ultras have been quite clear about. They said that even on that, it's not a black and white thing. They started off the game against Augsburg in September with a huge banner behind the goal, and I talked about this in my newsletter at the time, labeling the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu as a fascist, and telling him to stop murdering civilians in Palestine. That was the words on the banner, and with accompanying that banner was quite a detailed statement from the San Pauli ultras, in which they said, and if I may, I think I highlighted a couple of sentences earlier, which I'll just read out as to what the San Pauli ultras said. Quote, the narrative that San Pauli and its fans are uniformly on the side of Israel and its government is untrue. While we no more question the right of the state of Israel to exist than the necessity of a Palestinian state, we, as an anti-fascist group, would never take the side of the deeply racist and far-right government of Israel and its unbridled crimes. So yeah, that's a quote. That was their position of it. And I think there's another, if I may just quote one extra bit, I think it's important to sort of understand the position, particularly the ultras come from at St. Pauli. And it's to do with personal friendships. So this is way beyond general global politics, ideological positions, anything like that. This is down to ultra friendships. Now, St. Pauli their ultra group are close to Werder Bremen, and Werder Bremen are very close on a very personal level to the ultras from Hapoel Jerusalem, a rather left-leaning Israeli team. And one of their ultras, was among those Israelis abducted and later murdered following October the 7th. And just again to go back to the statement that the St. Pauli ultras put out, this ultra, by the way, the Israeli ultra was a man by the name of Hirsch Goldberg Polin. And the ultras write, and again I quote, "What we have done and what we will continue to do is to express our solidarity with our friends from Ultras Hapoel, who, and that's from Hapoel Tel Aviv, they're also linked, who were directly affected by the Hamas terrorist attack, and to mourn victims such as Hirsch, as we mentioned, with whom we shared many friendships." So I think, again, just to basically put that perspective out there, at least in the eyes of the San Pauli ultras, a lot of their stance on this, at least on a very, very basic level, is actually based a lot less on ideology or politics, but on personal friendship as well, and that influences their stance on things.
And maybe to wrap up this particular debate, before we go to one final question, and then wrap up this podcast in short order, I think what was expressed there by St. Pauli fans regarding the support of Israel at their disregard towards Benjamin Netanyahu, I think is very much reflected in what the most of the left in Germany feels. You know, there is support of the state of Israel, but there is Netanyahu is seen as a lot of negative things, and I think that is very reflective, and that is the difficult position that you are in, if you're part of modern Germany today, and you believe in supporting the Jewish state, but you also don't believe that Netanyahu is a good shepherd of those people, right? And I mean, that is also true within the state of Israel itself. And among many Jews, that feel uncomfortable with what's going on in Gaza at the moment, right? So that is maybe a very important distinction that has to be made here. And again, the world isn't black and white. There's many shades of gray. And when it comes to this particular topic, it is particularly rich of gray stones in Germany.
I think that's a fair and accurate way of describing the perceptions that exist both in Germany and also within German football supporters. Just very quickly to bring it right back to St. Pauli, because the question was asked regarding the Jackson Irvine situation. He was actually then sort of criticised on Instagram, it emerged, by a member of St. Pauli's supervisory board, René Barn, I think it was. Who effectively had a go at him on Instagram, saying that, I think, along the lines of, "You're just a player."
But he did it behind a pseudonym, right? And it just emerged that people just figured it out.
But I think the pseudonym was like his name, René.FCSP. And I think it was quite easy to work out who it was.
He's of a generation that is not very educated in social media, let's say it that way.
He had a go at Irvine on the internet. And I believe internally and it came out last week actually, he's been sort of internally given a telling off within St. Pauli and fined, I think, as well. And I think just last weekend on Sunday at St. Pauli's annual general members meeting, which is one of the reasons why St. Pauli weren't at the demonstration in Leipzig, by the way. They had their membership meeting at the same time. The president, Orke Göttlich, I think, tried to very much bury the hatchet with the Jackson Irvine situation and insist that they want to, what was his words? I think he said, build bridges, not deepen trenches. So I think at St. Pauli, I think they are absolutely, I think interested in dialogue. It's one of their big USPs. That's not a pun, by the way. USP, unique selling point, or Ultra St. Pauli, could be either. I think, that's the latest on the Jackson Irvine situation, and they could probably do with him back. Maybe as seems to be lacking a captain at the moment. You could say on the pitch, St. Pauli.
I think we could probably do a full hour on St. Pauli, and we might have to soon on all these things.
I genuinely hope I hope that was interesting, and above all, I hope it was fair, and I hope it was objective and informative, because it's difficult topic, and I hope we did okay talking about